this is my friend Andrew, and Andrew is going to talk to us today about dating, his experiences with dating, because I asked him specifically because sometimes I'll like post things, you know, my little dumb stories and content, and he often has some really interesting insights that I wouldn't think of or hadn't thought of, or they're just unique insights. So I invited him today to share with us the male perspective, dating, sex, whatever we decide to talk about. So you told me you had something prepared. Do you want to do it now, later?
We'll do it later. We'll just get to it. We'll just jump right in.
We're going to jump right in. Okay, so tell me, you're a single guy, yes?
A single guy in Scottsdale.
Okay.
It's part kid in a candy store, and then it's part pure tragedy.
Why is it pure tragedy? I was gonna say
it's just, so you know what the paradox of choice is?
Yeah.
So the paradox
I think I do.
So the paradox of choice is you go into CVS and there are 75 different types of toothpaste.
Okay.
Or you go into Sprouts and there's 150 types of salad dressing.
Right.
So more choice doesn't exactly mean more happiness, because you spend time sort of stressing over what choice you're going to make.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So
there's almost too many options there, and is it exhausting? Is it overwhelming? Is it just like you don't know whether you want to settle down? I feel like that's a huge thing with dating.
Well, it's not so much
too much choices. People think they have so many choices that they don't want to settle in.
So it's not really that you have as much choice as you think, but the perception is that you do.
Okay.
So think about, do you ever drive in the car with another person?
Sometimes. Yes.
Do you ever jump in the HOV lane?
Of course.
So that's what dating's like. You're in the HOV lane because you have many passengers in the vehicle that you're moving down the road in.
Okay.
Right? So it's not you just breezing in the fast lane. You're in the HOV lane with a lot of different people and choices, and
okay.
So there's several elements to it. That's probably like the best like analogy, like transportation analogy that I have.
Okay.
So there's a paradox of choice, and then there's the paradox of love.
Okay.
Which is going to sound corny, but
no, I like it. So is it they're not equally connected? They're not on plane together? They're not like they don't dissect at some point?
They might be on the same like celestial astroplane.
Oh,
but
okay.
they're not exactly like congruent.
Okay.
Right? So the challenge with the paradox of love is that but people tend to find love when they're looking for it the least.
Yes.
And when
Agreed.
when they're least ready for it.
Right.
And it's going to come hit you in a way that you haven't considered. But if you're on the prowl, like most biological guys, like straight men in Scottsdale
or women, yeah,
then you're kind of assessing your choices and assessing your romance and love in ways that aren't terribly rational. It's okay for them to be irrational.
Okay.
But you're always making slightly more irrational decisions. And so I think that's sort of the world out here, because where I grew up, you know, not everybody was pretty and friendly. I grew up in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay.
I grew up in Philadelphia, right? So not that there weren't pretty and friendly people there, but
they were fewer and far between.
Yeah, think about like the difference between, you know.
Well, I'm a Midwest girl, so everybody's friendly. Like I literally grew up in the middle of nowhere, and people waved to you. And I remember when I was a real little kid, and that would happen, and people would wave. You'd be driving, and everybody does this. It's like this. They're driving, and then they just go like this. You know, they're driving. Just flip up the hand. Wave, wave. Sometimes you get the full wave, but usually it's just the flip up of the hand. Just everybody does this. And I just was so intrigued as a kid. I'm like, why are these people all waving at us, Dad? Do you know them? And he's like, no, that's just, everybody just waves. Just very friendly. It's smaller towns, lots of smaller communities. So the likelihood that you might be related or know that person is pretty great. So yeah, I definitely have a tendency to notice when towns are not quite as friendly. Orlando, not as much.
One of the best ways I've ever explained this is that on the East Coast, people aren't really nice, but they're kind.
Okay.
What I find on the West Coast and maybe a couple other regions is that people are the opposite.
Okay.
So they're kind, but they're not nice. So you have to choose, right? Do you want people who are less nice but do kind things, or kind people that aren't doing it for the right reasons?
So do you mean, like, I've met plenty of East Coast people that they come off very harsh but would give you the shirt off their back. Is that kind of what you're saying?
100%.
Okay. So that, yeah, I actually love East Coast people because I kind of love that brashness. I kind of like that take me as I am. What you see is what you get. Like, I prefer that.
Yeah.
To, like, the kind of sugary, fake, sentiment where they're nice to your face, but really they're not nice people.
Yeah.
So I've always gotten along great with East Coast people because I kind of get that sentiment. I'm kind of a little bit like that myself, I feel like. Maybe not. I don't know. I just get it. I get that whole... but it's definitely not for the weak. If you're a sensitive person, don't move to the East Coast because they will just tell you... They'll tell you what they think all the time.
But sometimes it's refreshing. I mean, it's like you approach a woman on the East Coast, and if she's that direct... You'll approach her and she'll say hi, and she'll say no, and you're like, okay, cool, I can move on.
Moving on.
But sometimes you approach somebody, and it's not just a West Coast thing, but it's just in certain places, and people will give you all the time in the world, but really not have the right intention.
Okay.
Or they're just kind of ciphering through as many choices as possible in order to get to like that end state.
Okay. I would agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment of kind of the coasts of and people, how they treat everybody. Like they say kind of, I've lived on the West Coast and never lived on the East Coast. I've lived Midwest and over, and I do think people are nice enough, but I think you're right. I think it's not quite as necessarily genuine, or it's like more, you have to weed out the feelings. You have to really kind of assess the situation. It takes longer to figure out what the people want or assess the situation.
Yeah, it's just it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
If anything. And did you ever see the film Moneyball with Brad, baseball movie?
Oh, maybe I did, but if I did, it was like probably when it came out. I don't remember.
Well, it's kind of like there are. So he says it in terms of baseball teams, but I think the analogy actually works really well here. It's like there's rich guys or high status guys, and then there's poor guys or low status guys. Then there's like 50 feet of shit. And then there's most guys below the shit.
Oh, that's horrible.
So no. And it's,
I hate to believe.
And I'm not saying that to say that guys are really that shitty.
Right.
But
they're all down here somewhere in the shit pile.
I mean, you got to think about it, right? So think about 20 years ago. How many people did you interact with on a monthly basis? Maybe, I don't know, 50, 100 people. But now you're in this high-speed digital world.
Right.
Where we have thousands of followers and we have maybe 10,000 people that we're connected to across multiple digital platforms. So when you think about choice, the paradox of choice, it's even greater because, it's like I could meet a woman, I could ask her out on a date, and between me asking her out and the time I go out with her, I could have been turned on 1,500 different ways by all the Instagramming or by all the social media or by things that I see, right? So it's like, it's not to say you have to meet somebody and then immediately go out with them so that you can like eliminate that choice.
Right.
But just biologically, right, as a guy, I mean, most guys are not looking for the next best thing. Women are really good at sourcing the next best thing. Guys are just good at sourcing the next thing.
Okay.
Right? Because it's just, that sort of innate biological need, and then we have all this technology that sort of fucks with our head. So it is difficult sometimes, and I think honestly the best thing you can do in a place like Arizona or Scottsdale or Phoenix, somewhere like that, is if you meet a girl and you're really into her, take her to the place where there's going to be the most distractions, because that's going to be the only litmus test if you're super into her.
To see if that she's like into you back, like that you guys have good conversation, or that she
that you're not distracted by the IG.
So are you easily distracted by other, like if like another hot woman just walked in here, and would you just immediately just like stop filming for a second, I have to like go check out this girl?
I don't know. Look at Rhonda. She's got it going on. I'd probably say no, but have I fallen into that trap before? Yes.
Yeah.
So
I just had this discussion recently with a friend about how somebody was talking about how it's disrespectful to look at another woman, or it's disrespectful to look at another guy when you're with somebody. But I feel like it's actually very natural to do. And I'm not saying you disrespectfully look at them. Like, you don't have to like stare at them and look them up and down. But I think it's just human nature to just check out other people and people that we find attractive. I don't know. I think you can't do it disrespectfully, but I don't think that's odd.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just think that I think as a guy, one of the smartest things that you can do is you can differentiate between, like, desire. Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about that word.
Okay.
Desire, it's not a negotiation. And what I mean by that is I could meet a woman out here and I could think of like a really cool place to take her, a really great day, or, maybe get out of town and do something fun. But no amount of cool shit, no amount of trips, no amount of restaurants is going to make her want me any more than she would just want me anyway.
Agreed.
Like, the kind of joke is like that you can take a girl to an amazing restaurant or something, but there's probably going to be that guy that she desires that can just like hit the Chick-fil-A drive-through and roll up a blunt and smash it out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
and smash it out. And meanwhile, you're taking her to Mastro's and Buck and Ryder.
100%. That's
all these
true.
places. And
I'm going to tell you right now, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
I've gone out with some questionable guys that I'm like, what am I doing here? And gone out with some guys that would totally do that for you, and you're just like, meh.
Yeah. I mean, some guy's going to like breeze through with like In-N-Out and, his weed pen and just
maybe not the weed pen. I can go without that part,
but no. It's so desire's not negotiation, and the thing is, if you start negotiating it becomes an obligated compliance. Where if you stop doing it, she's gone anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I was talking about with somebody earlier today was the whole concept of, if desire's not a negotiation and she has to just want you because she wants you, there's always going to be a part of dating out here, which is really, really hard and sort of tragic, is that it's a lot of work to keep, like in the modern age where people are, on their phones 10 hours a day.
That I agree with.
It's a lot of work to keep somebody who you genuinely believe desires you, because there's just so much competition.
Because people think they have options. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, everybody thinks Instagram, you have, like you said, it's so easy to scroll through, and I feel like everybody feels like everybody on there is an option, which isn't necessarily true.
Yeah, that DM function is a deadly thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a good way to stand out and differentiate yourself.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
if you
like obviously you're here, we're hanging out, we're talking. Like that's not something that would have happened 10, 15 years ago. We would have had no opportunity to have met like that.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, for sure. Like I get what you're saying. That's, but I do think that's kind of a weird component with what's happening in our society now. Why people do have a hard time staying together and finding mates. Because I feel like everybody's just like scrolling on to the next. Like you were saying, you have to keep that desire. You have to keep that interest, or they start trickling off. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think. So I don't think that rising expectations are a sign of entitlement. I think that they are they're I'm going to start sounding super clinical here, but they're the wellspring of human advance.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So think about.
He's very smart. I have no idea what he's talking about.
So think about. Do you go to Starbucks? Are you a Starbs girl?
I do from time to time.
Okay.
I'm a homebrew girl.
Maybe you get a vegan pumpkin spice latte when you're feeling a little spicy, a little saucy.
I'm pretty boring. I usually just get literally like what do you have brewed right now?
So think about that. Vegan pumpkin spice latte. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, Howard Schultz would have never created that. But eventually someone was like, not only do I want this latte to be pumpkin spiced, but you better not put any cow's milk in it.
Right.
And enough people asked for that Starbucks was like, well, shit, we gotta offer this. And I think that you can look at rising expectations in dating and in love and in sex and in romance and things like that as a sign of entitlement. Like, these motherfuckers are truly entitled to this, elevated expectation of what they should have. But you can also look at that as our development as human beings, our advancement as human beings has depend on people not being complacent and asking for more, even like.
Agreed.
So
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
That the human mind is designed to keep wanting more.
So Rhonda, one of the things that I will always remember about you is grateful yet annoyed a thing? And that's exactly what it is. Am I grateful that there's a Starbucks? Yes. Am I annoyed that they haven't quite made this latte the way I want it? Yes. And you can hold those two mutually exclusive ideas out at the same time.
Right. So you said you've lived here for how long?
4 years.
Okay, 4 years. So in that time frame, how have you ever had a long-term relationship with anybody here?
Not in Arizona.
No?
I've had maybe 3 different levels of romance / intimacy / fucking.
Okay.
So the first level is probably out of boredom or perceived lack of options.
Okay.
And that's just probably the F word.
Right. Well, to you it might be, but was it to the other person?
It was probably more to me. Well, no.
Because sometimes that's not even.
Well, so I like to think that there's that genuine desire, and then there's someone who kind of sees that little piece of you that, can sort of mold into something. Then I think that so that's like on the positive side, and then on the negative side, I feel like we're 4 blocking it, right? Then there's your Tinkerbells and your energy vampires.
Oh, okay. So what's a Tinkerbell?
Tinkerbell.
I think I know what you're saying, but tell me, because.
So in Peter Pan, Tinkerbell in the novel, not the Disney 5.
She needed a lot of attention.
She needed a lot of attention.
A lot of attention.
But.
Or she died.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. She collapsed.
She literally just died.
And in the book, she got violent. Like when
she didn't get what she wanted.
When she didn't get what she wanted, she got violent.
Well, she did in the cartoon too. She tried to kill Wendy because Wendy was taking away Peter's attention.
Yes, there are a fair share of Tinkerbells that
they Disney-fied it, but that is what happened. She actually tried to kill the kids.
They can get a little nasty.
Yeah.
Right. They can and I like a strong, aggressive woman, but sometimes the heart breaks. Right. Sometimes you're just not ready for that level of nastiness. But then there's an energy vampire, and the energy vampire is, they're gonna make you, and you might get something amazing out of it, but sometimes people just drain you of your resources. Yeah. Like like I've gone out on dates that didn't end up with anything physical, but I went home and I felt immediately asleep, and the next morning I woke up exhausted, like I'd just run a marathon. Okay. Right. Sometimes people just kind of take it out of you. I think there's definitely been moments where I've met someone and dated someone for a little bit where I thought, okay, this is going to be a thing, but then it got down to expectation or choice, and I wasn't the one. And I'm just not a believer in forcing it. Like I can give you every reason under the sun why you should date me, hang out with me, sleep with me, get a cup of coffee with me. But if you're just not feeling it, you're not feeling it. Right. And like I'm not the basketball analogy is I can play zone defense or I can full court press. And if I full court press, it's like Rhonda, like you don't want to do that.
Right.
It
doesn't usually lead to anything.
Yeah. You want to meet the one. You want to not make her, but you want to have her meet you in the middle. You want to give her enough reasons to be interested and
And you want to allow the chase a little bit.
Yes.
Because if you don't, then that's exhausting too, to have somebody like constantly like.
Well, it's kind of like the who cares the least, right?
Yeah, I don't like that game.
It's
that is a big dating game, and I am going to address that at some point because that's literally dating in a nutshell right there. Who can care the least?
Oh, it's terrible. It's the worst feeling in the world.
That's the worst. And that's a lot of dating, and I hate that. I try to be very open and honest, and it drives me crazy. I get crazy. I can be the crazy person. I'm like, oh, you're not going to respond? Like, I don't get that way very often. Luckily, I can control myself a little bit, but I don't like the whole, like, who can care the least game.
I think one of the biggest challenges is there's a vulnerability and there's an openness that people should take on and truly embark on. But at the same time, I mean, you have to keep your guard up. You have to,
right?
You know,
yeah. I'm not saying lay it all
protect your heart
on the
a little
table.
bit.
Yeah.
Right. That's certainly an important thing. And then, just understand what people want. For some people, it's about sex. For some people, it's about the heart. For some people, it's about the mind. Like, people use the term sapiosexual, like they want to date a smart guy or a smart woman, but like that's not our. It's not either not our gender or our sexual preference. As fluid as you want to get with it, right? Like being pretentious is not a sexual, preference or orientation. I can say that I want to date someone who's smart and ethereal and intelligent and like in 22 minutes of the sitcom saves the day. But right. I also want, someone who meets my bedside manner. I'm not saying I need a total freak, and I'm not saying I want, a Handmaid's Tale handmaid.
Right.
Right. But there's a balance. Like I've dated women where I was too much for her. She just wanted to like beanbag chair it, take it. And then I've also dated women who were just too freaky for me. Right. Where, yes, we get along and we have these great conversations. We like doing the same things. And we take a trip out of town, and it's amazing. But if you're trying to choke me out, and I'm not with it,
I could see how that could get awkward real quick.
Yeah. So you don't know, right? And there's a lot of. I think we talk about technology, we talk about dating in the HOV lane. I mean, think about it. It's like last guy you went out with. How much did you know about him before you went out with him?
Good question. I have not dated much recently. I went out with one person, and I knew not much enough background stories. Instagram stuff.
So the technology provides that open...
Friend of a friend, so, it was kind of but not a lot.
So the technology provides a very interesting open window. So let's say, like, I've had circumstances where I meet a girl on Bumble or Tinder or even Instagram.
So do you do a lot of dating sites?
Not recently, not in the last 6 months.
No, because why is that?
Because it's truly an 80-20, it's more like 20-80 rule, where it's like the number one best attribute to success in Bumble is?
What's that?
Be better looking.
Oh, well, there you go.
And I don't say that to be like aesthetically like whatever.
So Bumble I never did. I did Tinder and I did Hinge, and I actually had the best luck on Tinder, to be honest. I met really nice guys on Tinder. I never had a problem there. And actually I don't recall going out with anybody from Hinge. I never did Bumble though, and I think their whole idea is like the women get to like kind of make the first jump or move.
Have you been paying attention to any of the news around like surrounding UFOs and aliens?
Yeah, because I've seen UFOs, and I was going to post about that.
So think about this. Tomorrow morning, I wake up in Scottsdale Quarter, and aliens have arrived.
Okay.
The UFO has landed in Scottsdale Quarter.
It's here.
I'm not sure why they didn't end up in like Washington D.C. or like New York or something like that.
They're gonna show up in here and in Tucson, and
they just came to Scottsdale, right?
Right.
And they step off the plane and or the plane the UFO,
the spaceship.
Yeah, they step off the UFO and they greet me because I'm there naturally in the middle of Scottsdale Quarter.
You're right there waiting for them.
And they say, Andrew, we're here. And we're going to outbreed you, humans.
Oh.
And if the only thing we had as human beings was Bumble to start like matching up potential procreation partners,
right,
we'd be screwed. And it's because it's not a matter of.
So it's not a good place to start for dating. Like you never had luck on Bumble.
I've enjoyed my time on it, but does it get exhausting sometimes? Yeah. I mean, I don't like not being able to send the first message. I'm a proactive, communicative. I'm a bold enough guy.
I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about other dating sites, especially not ones I've ever been on. I just didn't. I don't know. I kind of like when guys message me.
The most important thing is, aesthetics matter, right? So attractiveness.
Yeah, I think no matter
is key.
No matter if you meet somebody in person. I mean, it's always different meeting somebody in person, but when you're literally on a dating site, aesthetics matter. That's all you have to go on at that point. Like, you're literally moving and swiping throughout the site solely based on that.
And sometimes it's not even just aesthetics. Sometimes it's height. Right? You ever see Caddyshack? There's a great scene in the first...
I've seen it, but that's, again, one...
original Caddyshack movie where someone asks the Chevy Chase character, right? Mm-hmm. They say, how did... He said, "What?" He said, "Did you play golf this morning?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "What did you shoot?" And he said, "Oh, Judge, I don't keep score." He said, "Well, how do you measure yourself against other golfers? By height." Right? So it's a funny joke,
right?
But that's actually very important. Like you can't see because we're all sitting down, but I'm 5'7".
Okay.
That might as well be 5'3" to a 5'5", 5'6" woman out there. So sometimes it's evolutionary, right? You're seeking out more evolutionary traits than aesthetic ones. And
I'm going to just throw something out here because my last interview I did, we specifically talked about this scenario.
Okay.
And she said, she's like, well, I prefer taller guys. I'm like, oh, okay. But we kind of all do. But here's the thing. The reason why is not because I just prefer a taller guy. I was talking about how I dated a guy for quite some time that was, I don't know how tall he was. I think he said he was 5'9". He wasn't 5'9". He's probably 5'7", 5'8". And my initial reaction was like, okay, you lied about your height, but ended up that we did really well for a while. But here's the thing. Women are insecure about their height comparatively. It literally has nothing to do with you. It literally has nothing to do with your height. What it has to do with is our insecurity against you.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's an insecurity, it's a reality, and that's important to recognize sometimes. Yeah. I mean, if she wants a guy who's 6 foot, or if she wants a guy who has a beard, or if she wants a guy who, has a man bun, then that's what she wants, right? Like, it goes back to talk about desire not being a negotiation. It truly isn't. You want what you want,
right? And
there's something about it. Like, I always like to say that if I meet a woman and I get like that sensation, right, that tingly feeling where I'm like, I'm into her and she's into me, what that tingly feeling is all common sense leaving my body. Right? So
that's relationships in general.
Yeah. Right? But I think with any relationship, and even some of the ones that have been longer than most out here in Arizona, there's been an understanding, at least that I've had, that it's going to start off, it's going to get hot, it's going to feel
everything
really
always
good.
Starts off like super hot,
and then it's gonna deteriorate a little bit. It's gonna cool off.
It starts plateauing a little bit because you're starting to actually get to determine all those little idiosyncrasies about each other. Like, can I deal with this? Is this something I'm okay with? The things that maybe irritate you about somebody that you're having to decide, is that something that bothers me? Can I handle that because I like him? But is this going to be an argument? All those little things start coming out as soon as some of the fire starts subsiding a little bit. So do you think that you've overcome, do you think that you've gone out with girls who maybe initially thought that they wanted a taller guy and then it really wasn't an issue after you start dating?
I think it depends how strong their desire for those attributes were. And I also think it deals with their own perception of the matter. Have there been women who have been like, you're a little shorter than I would have liked, but you check all these other boxes, or you hit all these other marks, and that's cool. Or sometimes it's just it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right. It's a deal breaker.
Right.
And that's okay. Like, give you a good example of deal breaker for me is I dated a girl, was super into her. I liked her as a person. We did some of the same things together. Went to the same gym.
Right. Had some great commonalities.
Yeah. We had really good intimacy. It was great. But whenever she would get really, really drunk, she would also pee the bed. Now that was a non-negotiable because I didn't like.
That would definitely be.
Because I didn't like to wake up in someone else's urine. So,
I'm just gonna throw this out there. If you wet the bed when you drink too much, you should not drink. You should not drink because that's very unattractive.
Yeah, it's like it's like
that's awful.
There's
I would never. If I woke up to a guy pissed the bed, I would be done. Like that would probably be a deal breaker for me, right? That I would be probably so horrified by that scenario.
And it's like 2:47 in the morning. It's like, where the fuck are you gonna go? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's like, can you find a dry piece of the bed, right? So was that a deal breaker? Yes. 100%. That just wasn't gonna happen. And I don't know if that was medical or I don't know if that was psychological or I don't know what was going on.
Right.
You know, we all have our demons.
Yeah.
But it was just something that didn't matter how much I like to get down.
Everything else about her was fantastic.
Fantastic.
That, and damn it, that ruined everything.
But it was just, you know, that was a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And
I have deal breakers. Like, I've never had anybody pee the bed.
Kudos to you. That's amazing.
I mean, I have kids, and my daughter does. That's different. It's my kid, and she's a baby. She's not a baby. She's 9. But whatever. I'm just saying, like, yeah, no, not a grown man. I would definitely draw the line there.